What is up, y'all? Shabbat Shalom. This is Friday night. We're here for our weekend reflection message. Just taking a look at the week and our lessons and, giving everything some thought before we move into our next week. So looking back on our spiritual growth and what life has been working with us on and the process. So for tomorrow, I will be posting our lunation workshop. We have a total eclipse. It's a lunar eclipse in Pisces this weekend. So I will do our workshop for that one tomorrow. It will be posted depending on how quickly or not it uploads. It may be up earlier in the evening, it may be later, but I think it'll be posted by Sunday morning. So let's get into tonight's reading because it's really hinting ahead at that prominent energy for this weekend. So we have Venus in Capricorn, which is an aspect that comes into this weekend. Saturn is making an appearance, but I can't remember exactly what the aspect is, but there is some definite, there's something, I think it's like a Saturn conjunct Pisces or squares Pisces, something. I remember the Kabbalah Center astrologer the other day was talking about something to do with Pisces and Capricorn. So Venus in Capricorn is convention, followed by the Sun in Pisces, the potency of that Pisces energy, and followed by Jupiter in Taurus, which was Jupiter was in Taurus a couple of years ago, and it expanded so much of the way we approach our security and our love lives and all the ways that we relate to those Venus themes, particularly in the realm of our material well-being. And so the effort that we put forth into, that transformation at that time, that energy is coming back around again, and that's relevant again. Okay, so underneath the convention card, we have death. Very Wednesday Addams, if you ask me. Underneath vision, we have 9 of Wands. And underneath status, we have the Devil. So right now we are in the midst of the lunar month of Elul, the month of Virgo. This particular month we had 2 new moons in Virgo, which is unusual. We had a black moon, which is 2 new moons in 1 month. So we started our lunar month with a lunar, let's see, a new moon in Virgo, which began our cycle. We have a full moon in Pisces happening this weekend, I think on either late Saturday night or Sunday. And then we have, at the end of the month, the end of the cycle, we have another new moon in Virgo, which basically brings us into Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah begins the next day. And so I plan on doing, for the new moon of Virgo, the second one, I'm going to be doing the practice of Tashlik, where you project your sins for the year and your regrets and your remorse into bread, and then you cast it into water. Or you can sacrifice a chicken, but bread is easier and less barbarous. Okay, so this month, the month of Virgo, is all about perfecting the vessel. This is the last month of our spiritual year, and so it's like spiritual final exams for the soul. It's like our chance to show our marks to the Creator and to the council that are going to be judging our soul come Rosh Hashanah. And so when on Rosh Hashanah, we stand before the Creator and we say, look, this is, what we worked on through the year, and This is the effort that I put forth to perfect my soul and bring your light into the world and become more of a vessel of sharing and less of a vessel of wanting to receive for myself. And so how'd I do? And so then the trumpets blow on Rosh Hashanah, and that seals the edict for the year. And then we go through a period of like challenges for the next week, and we are sort of bringing down the light that's going to integrate the new wiring for our new soul that we're going to have come in. So like our soul leaves us on Rosh Hashanah and it goes into the upper realms, and a big portion of that soul stays in the upper realms for a week, and it gets a bunch of upgrades. Gets new wiring and new programming, and it gets the old programming and the virus is purged, and so it replaces and renews and refreshes and cleanses and purifies your soul for the year to come. So on Yom Kippur is when we complete that process, and so each day of the week between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there's like this activation that is happening, and that it goes down through each different dimension of our soul. You guys have seen the Tree of Life Consciousness. Here, let me show you the map here, chart. So between the week of Rosh Hashanah and the next week of Yom Kippur, we go through these like 8 or 7 dimensions, 7 or 8, not the top supernal primal primordial energies. Those are the ones we're working directly with during Rosh Hashanah. But through the next 7 or 8 days, each one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each of these 7 dimensions will be activated within our soul, within our grid work, so to speak. And so by the time Yom Kippur comes around and we are fasting that day to prepare ourselves to receive the soul into the body again, we want to fast because we want to restrict any of the pleasures of the flesh. We want to break affinity with the flesh that day, so we have total pure affinity with the light of the Creator. And so we abstain from food and water and cleaning ourselves and different wearing leather and perfumes and oils, things that give us pleasure or utility to the flesh, to materialism. And so on that day, the soul comes back into the body, and then for the next week, it's like the same kind of route comes through again with the light, activating each of those dimensions and turbocharging it during Sukkot. So this weekend, the lunar eclipse is the kickoff, like kind of energy that accelerates us through this process of shedding, of letting go. And so the month of Virgo, during that month of perfection, this is called the month of Teshuvah. It's also words associated with this month are repentance, atonement. Sometimes that gives people the ick. It's very heavy. It sounds like being judged and criticized and shamed, but that's not really the consciousness that we are understanding this. It's more like shedding all of the conditioning that has been projected on us since our childhood. So here we are, brings us to our reading. So the convention card here depicts a child, or the image of a child within a very rigid framework here. It's very tight, it's very constricting, and it's under the foundation of this home up here. This looks like a very traditional colonial home, even like a salt box. Brings to mind puritanical, well-to-do practicality. We're not frivolous in this house. We're not woo-woo. This house isn't allowing homosexuality or anything that challenges the belief and doctrine of the home. We're not allowed to be growing up Baptist and then becoming Catholic or Jewish, or, it's like these rigid belief systems, right? This house might have told you that money is scarce, that it's hard to come by. It might have told you that you can't go and pursue your creativity. Boys can't do ballet, get that outfit off or else, we'll be whipping you and sending you on to a boarding school. Think about all of the rigidity, all the programming that comes from our early childhood. Now, maybe you grew up in a house that was more liberal and more understanding and more compassionate. However, we still have societal and like cultural projections that seep into the subconscious, particularly when we're an impressionable child and we don't have the reason and the context to discern and take and leave what isn't relevant, right? So in this moment, we are on the threshold of entering into a new era of our lives. And we've been working towards this for the last few years. And so, last year is all about jumping the big timeline. So now we're here, this topsy-turvy timeline. Wow, that really was a sudden shift, right? But we have to rise up into this new self in this new timeline. And we have to embody the spiritual growth and transformation and changes in our actions and in our consciousness and in the way we see life and the way we proactively show up to it. And so our assignment is to get rid of all this indoctrination and projections and fears and judgment that your parents might have placed on you or society or a misguided religious figure, or you name it, right? There's so many points of influence in our world today. And so we want to cast off what has defiled the purity of our unique spirit. And this is not saying, like when you hear the words defiled and purity, it's like a lot of times our mind immediately goes to shame about sex. And it's like, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about being defiled by the ego's perceptions, by the ego's limited view of things, by the flesh, the instinct of the flesh to be competitive and to be in a dog-eat-dog world and to do whatever it takes to survive. It's that part of the self that wants to get instant gratification at the expense of maybe true value, or wants to receive instant gratification without earning, or taking for the self alone without thinking about how we can share and let the gifts that are coming to us overflow to others. For instance, the spiritual work that we do, we're not to do it to get a result or to get some blessing or as like a negotiable thing where it's transactional, like, well, I did my spiritual work, so I should be getting this by now, or this should be happening, or this should guarantee me this. It's like we should be doing the spiritual work just for the merit of the goodness of the work itself and the fruits that it yields on its own. Not, I did this, so are you going to pay up on your end? Like, right? So we are shedding the layers of ourself that aren't truly us, that aren't really authentic. We are shedding layers of insecurity. We are shedding layers of fear, of scarcity, of doubt, of judgment, of criticism, of prejudice, of grudge, of hatred, anything that creates sow seeds of division. It's like we're letting that go because the true self within wants to reveal beauty and love and sharing and compassion and creativity in this world. So each of us has an assignment when we come to each carnation to break apart those shells of negativity that shroud our true expression of ourself. So the soul has dings in it, right? It's virtues, it's vices, it's got strengths and weaknesses, it's all over the place. And it's impacted by, you know, society and our negativity, and it carries the weight of that. And so it's always in a process trying to correct and recalibrate and upgrade to be more perfected, more like the light of the Creator. The spirit, our spirit within, is always in an untarnished, perfected state. This is the expression of us with the light of the Creator shining through in an unencumbered way. We don't have fears, we don't have doubts, we don't have insecurities. We can trust the process. We can laugh at the days to come because we know that we have what we have in this moment, we have enough. So there's no need to worry about the future because the Creator takes care of us today. And that is evidence that the Creator will take care of us tomorrow. So this month is all about the Death card. It's all about self-sacrifice, letting go of what's not real, what's not true, what is not in alignment with our spirit. Now, the 40 days of Teshuvah, they are to commemorate when Moses went up on the mountain, when the children of Israel at Mount Sinai had sinned and they worshiped the golden calf. They broke the covenant. And so they were being punished and severely judged. And so Moses had to go up onto the mountain and perform sacrifices and pray and do atonement for the sake of the Israelites to, to plead for mercy and for forgiveness, for turning their back on the Creator who's provided them manna, who split the Red Sea. And it's like all that wasn't enough, and you went and you wanted to like create something that you could see, feel, taste, touch, something dead, something that doesn't have any power at all. Like, this is what it's all about. It's like we give our power away to illusions and to things that have no real value and real power, right? Like, how many times do you think, oh, with just some more money, I would be fine? And it's like, there's always another expense that comes up. The money is not going to keep everything in its right place, or if I just had this, everything would be fine. And so it's like realizing that the Creator is always going to be there for us in our time of need and provide what the Creator knows that we need. And we have a mission and we have a purpose, and that mission and purpose will be supported if we are using the right consciousness and leaning on the light and asking God for help and using prayer and meditation and putting our consciousness in the right place and trusting. So, Teshuvah, repentance, returning back to what's real. So Pisces, the vision card here, is the consciousness that we are awakening. We are shedding the old consciousness to want to receive for the self alone, or the old consciousness that is, I'm not being true to myself, but I don't want to rock the boat, so I'm doing what's expected and I'm going to be a false version of myself to people please, right? We're casting all of that off, and now we're awakening that third eye. We're awakening. The more we shed these layers of negativity and falseness, the more we open up the light to come through from within. So that gives us clarity and discernment and vision and wisdom and decisiveness, right? It helps things to become so much more clear and easier to choose, rather than so many times Pisces gets lost in the illusion and can kind of stay in that dreamy, fantastical state and not be decisive and not make an active choice and decide to go in one direction or another. So we're overcoming this. The Pisces card is paired with the Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands is when we are this close to breaking a long-held pattern, and it's like about that being in that final test and just persevering and pushing through. And just knowing that every time we upgrade, every time that we go into an up level, the new level, new devil, there's always going to be an opponent in our face pushing us to the edge of our next level. And so when we get tired and weary and we're like, oh, I just keep going around and around in circles, just remember you're going up and up and up. And so you're ascending as you're going around in circles. So instead of, when you're breaking these patterns, instead of getting lost and looking downward and downtrodden and getting too involved in your own self and like wallowing in the self-pity of it all, have valor and be victorious and look to the light, because as we shed that lower self, that self of the flesh, we awaken more of that Christ consciousness, and we are even that much more decisive and persevering over our old patterns, over that old stuff. When we have that inner vision that is awakened, we can see things so much more clearly for what they are. We can see through the illusion, through the fear that would have us go into those reactive, triggered, catalytic patterns of either low-level trauma responses or defense mechanisms or people-pleasing or whatever it is. We are starting to recognize it well enough to choose with free will to vote against it, to restrict it in that moment, to pause and to pray for a shift of consciousness, for a change of heart, for a change of mind, and for a change of behavior, right? And in the meantime, we fake it until we make it, right? And then here we have the opponent and we have status. And so it's like every time every time we best our opponent, we raise in status. And so right now, the opponent is like in its prime season of, let's bring all these old patterns around for the month of Virgo. Let's try to get everyone really discouraged before, they get their new soul. And, the opponent is always here to antagonize us, but the ultimate result of that antagonization, once we wake up to the point of it, is that we rise above, that we become stronger, that we become more and more like the Christ and less like the Satan, like the flesh. So that opponent is there to push us out of our comfort zone, to push us past our current status, right? And so this is really just going back, and it's from the original fall from the garden. And then again, we see it happening with Moses and the Israelites and the Mount Sinai and the sin of Adam, coming back to the sin of the golden calf, right? It's like these things are always these archetypal themes showing up again and again and again. So going into this weekend, we're seeing that Pisces lunar eclipse is going to reveal the things that have left us suffering from illusion or disillusionment or delusion, or caught up in fantasy, or have left us frozen and overwhelmed, inability to take action or be decisive. So much is going to be revealed this weekend in this eclipse. Eclipses bring things out into the open that have been hidden. They take things that have been hidden and they bring it into the light. Another one of the lessons that I've been learning in my Kabbalah classes this week has to do with the Creator playing hide and seek with us. So, for instance, there might be a challenge where you were like, okay, I'm challenged in this area, but I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to reveal light in this area. And then you feel really good about it and you're on a high, and then all of a sudden it's like you're challenged again in that same thing that you thought you just transcended. And so you're like, oh my gosh, like, am I being tested again? Like, is everything so bleak? Am I ever going to get over this? This is the Creator pretending, like playing hide and seek to see, okay, are you going to keep that desire hot? Are you going to keep pursuing the Creator even in the moments where you don't think you're getting your way, right? Can you stay focused on the Creator during those times and stay light and stay optimistic, but understand that the Creator is still there, that this is a moment of concealed light so that it creates more desire to keep doing, to keep becoming, to keep connected with the creator. So for instance, so recently I was really convicted and reminded that like I need to make it a priority to tithe, right? And so I've made it an effort to tithe, and it just seems like whenever you kind of stretch yourself to to do an act of faith, it's like you feel good about it, and then you're like, okay, you might witness some immediate like initial blessing or goodness from it, but then it's like you're like, oh, money starts getting tight. You have unexpected expenses coming up, and it's like the next week it's like, oh, well, should I tithe this week? Or I've had all these extra expenses, maybe I could just skip it. And it's like the light of the creator hides that certainty, hides the blessing to see, are you still going to make an effort? In the face of uncertainty, when you don't have that nice little pat on the head or that little boost from spirit that's like, oh, good job, twinkle in the eye. When you don't have that, are you still going to show up and make an effort? Are you still going to have desire for the creator? Or are you being fair weather, right? When you're sated, are you still hungry enough to show up for your process, right? So many people think, oh, if I won the lottery, all my problems would be gone. But many times that is when they think on the surface that their material problems are solved. But then it takes them down this road of like disconnecting from what's really important. And a lot of times they go on these benders of decadence and sinning or whatever. And they don't feel fulfilled because they kind of lost sight of their connection with the creator, because they were like, oh, well, everything's fine. I don't need to, when you're brokenhearted or when you're scared about something, or you're like, what's the lab results going to say? When you're, what is the court gonna rule on this? Like when you're terrified, it's like, that's when you're really doing the work and you're trying to get really close to the creator, because you want that comfort, you want that reassurance. But so many times when everything's perfect and we have everything we want, that's when the opponent is like, this is the perfect time, because they're gonna have arrogance and they're gonna think everything's fine, and they're gonna get lax on their prayers and their rituals and their devotions. And that's where I'm going to get in, and I'm going to sneak in with little thoughts and negativity and out of balance, and, get reactive and be affected. And, so just be aware the opponent is always waiting to get in and to tarnish that soul. So we are getting a good grip on that opponent before we enter into Rosh Hashanah. So this full moon will be nice and powerful. You're not wanting to start anything new or manifest anything during an eclipse season. It's all about healing and revelation and shedding and transformation and metamorphosis, and working on things that you're currently already in, but like not really starting anything new, not trying to push anything into fruition during this moment. This is like hunkering down during spiritual hurricane season and weathering the storm. And many times it's not stormy, but there are shifts happening, and we might have experiences that reflect those shifts. Okay. I will talk to y'all tomorrow, but in the meantime, peace be with you. Ciao.